Hi, everybody. Welcome to our new podcast. It's a basketball podcast called NBA Trade Zones, where we discuss all things NBA trades. Right now, we're going to be talking about, since it's the busiest time of the season, we're going to be talking about a lot of trade ideas we have, go back and forth with what we come up with. We're going to analyze the different situations involving various players. Later on, during the more boring time of the off season, sometimes during the season, we'll discuss different what if trade scenarios, discuss fantasy trades. We'll come up with different segments for the fans, try to get everyone involved as much as possible. But for right now, since we're in the busiest time of the off season, busiest time of the season, I should say, in terms of transactions, we're going to be discussing a lot of different trade ideas and analyzing the trades that happen during the season. We're going to be my name is Daniel, along with my brother here.
Hi, I am Sebastian.
So right now we're going to give you guys a little background about us, about our basketball fandom, who we like. Sebastian's going to start.
So, Daniel and I are both from Chicago, but we're not necessarily Bulls fans. I am a San Antonio Spurs fan, so today we're going to have a podcast mainly focused on Kawhi Leonard and where he's going to end up. So I will say that this, for me, is going to be one of the most depressing podcasts hopefully I have to do, especially since my brother Daniel is a Lakers fan, and everyone's talking about how he's probably going to go to the Lakers.
Yes, indeed. So I am a Lakers fan, and pretty excited for this offseason. Now, I will start off with the thought of LeBron James coming to the Lakers kind of is a guilty pleasure for me in a sense because I am not a fan of LeBron James. Now, I will acknowledge the fact that he is the best player in basketball, but for some reason he has always rubbed me the wrong way in terms of the way his demeanor on the court and his just genuine arrogance. However, also the thought of George, James, and Leonard teaming up on the Lakers is just something to salivate over, so I would love to see that happen, as bad that would be in my eyes.
Can I just make a comment here? Since when did LeBron James, right, he takes plays off on defense, and now it's being seen as a positive. They're saying, oh, he's so smart about time management. Since when is taking plays off on defense?
It's not, and it's always going to be a point that he shouldn't take those plays off, but people are going to be on his side because of his offensive production. And they're going to acknowledge the fact that he should be able to take defensive plays off, which is not right, but this is the new era of basketball that we are in right now.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do today when it comes to Kawhi Leonard is there's 5 teams that he's been specifically rumored to be going to who have probably the most options that can send to the Spurs for Kawhi. So we'll start talking about them. We'll start talking about why those teams would make the trade, maybe what is an offer they can make, and we'll see if the Spurs would actually accept the trade. So let's just start with the big one, which is LA.
LA Lakers, yep. So we want to pose a question here is, do the Lakers really have the best offer, the best package of players to offer the Spurs? Because the Lakers would probably be the last team the Spurs want to trade Kawhi Leonard to. For a good reason, because LeBron James could go there, Paul George could go there, and then what are the Spurs going to do? The Spurs still want to compete. The Spurs, especially with Greg Popovich there, want to compete 100%. They are not a team that is made up for a rebuild, especially not with Pop there. So, do they really want to send their best player, probably the second best player in the NBA, when healthy, to a main competitor and watch him team up with 2 other all-stars, the best player in the world and probably a top 15 player in the NBA right now, and really form another super team there?
Now, I will respond here as a Spurs fan thinking about trading Kawhi. There are 2 options, and I think what the Spurs need to maybe take in effect is, you know what, in these next 5 years, you guys are probably not going to win the championship. So maybe the Spurs have to say, look, the Warriors are out there, they're going to be great. The Lakers, they can put together a team, they're going to be fantastic. We'll see what the Rockets do, right? we'll see what happens with Boston. So maybe when the Spurs are making these trades, they have to start thinking, not for now, and I know that's not what Popovich would want to hear, but maybe they have to start thinking what's going to happen in 5 years and kind of punt these next 5 years. Kind of set it up to what's going to happen later.
Yes, and I agree with that, especially because Popovich will probably be retiring soon. I don't see Popovich less than more than a couple more years, especially with Kawhi Leonard wanting out. LaMarcus Aldridge is about 33 right now, I think going into his 34 season, and he is their true star right now. But he does not have that much longer to go, and we've seen the worst of LaMarcus Aldridge on the Spurs too. So who knows what you're going to get with him exactly in the next couple of years. So I agree with you completely. And now we see the Spurs, and the Spurs are probably one of the smartest, if not the smartest organizations out there. So they've probably went back and forth with each one of these scenarios.
So let's talk specifically about LA, right? So the Lakers have to offer Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, and maybe Lonzo Ball. I would say, as a Spurs fan, when I hear that the Lakers can put together their best package, I am appalled by that. I don't think what the Lakers are offering is very good. One of the things that I would be looking for is I would want at least 1 or 2 draft picks. I don't think the Lakers, especially with them being good, are going to be able to offer their draft picks. And even if they do, it's going to be late first round, which, I mean, the Spurs are really good at drafting, but that's not the best package that could be out there. Brandon Ingram, to me, is a good player. He's a work in progress. I don't say I wouldn't want Brandon Ingram on a team. I do believe that there's better packages out there, though. Kyle Kuzma is another real good player. He's also not a great defender. So there's reasons why there's areas where he can improve. And I'll just say, Lonzo Ball, he can't shoot. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, so Lonzo Ball would most likely not be involved in this trade. Lonzo Ball at this point is pretty synonymous with LA. And unless the Spurs directly ask for Lonzo Ball, I don't think Lonzo Ball would be involved in this trade. The package would definitely be centered around, like you said, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma. Now, really, the other debate here that goes on is, you're right that there are other packages out there, but what would teams be willing to offer? Because Celtics are not offering Jason Tatum. Their package would be centered around Jaylen Brown and probably a slew of draft picks, which they have high of, so then that would meet the Spurs' needs. However, are those draft picks are just that. They are nothing guaranteed. So you could offer the Sacramento draft pick, which right now it looks like it would probably be in the top 5 next year. But there's 2 risks involved. The first risk involved is, will it really be a top 5 draft pick? And the second risk then, even if it becomes a top 5 draft pick, will that player they draft be a star or a bust in the future? So you're really taking on two risks, and I'm trying to figure out whether the Spurs would be willing to take on that risk when the Spurs they have such a winning history, especially in the last 20 years. Would they be willing to take on that risk over taking on Brandon Ingram, who showed a lot of improvement this season in his game and will most likely grow up to be at least a very formidable starter, probably at least a borderline all-star, and Kyle Kuzma, who, like you said, can't really play defense. That's not what he's out there for. He's out there to score, and he does that really well, and it looks like he should do that well over the next 10 years.
But if the debate is, if you're giving me Jaylen Brown, who I think Jaylen Brown is better than Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma, I believe his potential is higher, and I'm sure he's younger than Kuzma, and they were drafted the same year as Ingram, right?
Jaylen Brown was drafted the same year as Ingram. Kyle Kuzma was drafted this past
Ingram and him are about the same age, right?
They're about the same age, yes.
And if you're also giving me the Sacramento pick, for which, the way I look at it, I'm going to compare it kind of to the Nets pick last year. It is going to end up being in the 5 or 6 range, 7, 8, There's going to be a little bit less teams tanking next year, from what I see.
I think there'll be a lot more teams tanking next year, especially with all the super teams forming right now.
Yes, that may be the case. So it will make it harder for Sacramento to get a higher pick since they have nothing. I mean, they have nothing. They have no reason to lose next year, right? They don't have that pick. And next year's draft isn't as full of talent, at least at the top. But that being said, I would still rather take Jaylen Brown and a mid pick, like in the 9 to 10 range, than Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma. I think Jaylen Brown is just the better player there.
Okay, so I don't agree. I'm sorry, I don't disagree. I am very high on Jaylen Brown. Especially watching Jaylen Brown in the playoffs, I seen more potential out of him than I seen out of Jason Tatum, which I know a lot of people disagree with.
That's just ridiculous.
I really like he is a lot more, at least right now, he is a lot more confident to me than Jaylen Brown, which than Tatum, yes. He is a lot more confident, finished really well around the basket, which I really liked watching that and really watching that confidence. Jason Tatum was not finishing very well around the basket from what I was watching. So the other issue with that is the money involved. So Jaylen Brown is still on his rookie scale contract, and we have to match offers. So now the Celtics, so we're kind of jumping into our Celtics discussion here as well with Kawhi Leonard. The Celtics would have to also offer one of Gordon Hayward or Al Horford. So now that's where the other debate comes in, is not the Celtics are offering one of their stars. Or not a superstar, but one of their stars, one of their legitimate all-stars either from the past, or Gordon Hayward could still continuously be an all-star for over the next couple of years.
So I do think Horford would not even be in the picture. Horford was too important of a player for Boston this year. I mean, he was their best player. I think if we're going to talk about this, I think the two players we can discuss is Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving. Let's begin with Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward, I think that's an interesting deal to think about if you give up Gordon Hayward and a pick. Gordon Hayward gives the Spurs needed offense that they really needed this year. The Spurs, without Kawhi Leonard, still finished 7th in the West. They had a winning record. If they had Gordon Hayward, they would have probably finished 3rd. Does that put them over Houston or Golden State? Absolutely not. But it gives him time to compete. Pop can finish his 2 years or 2 or 4 years with a winning team. He can continue his playoff streak, and that pick gives the Spurs a little bit of a look in the future. I know a lot of people don't think the Spurs have a great future. They don't have a lot of young assets. They really don't. But they do have DeJounte Murray, who I do like a lot. I think if he improves his shot, he can really become a real good player because he's already a top-tier defender. I mean, he's 21 years old, and he's already on an All-NBA defensive team. So they have some potential. Kyle Anderson has some room to grow. I think that pick, especially if it ends up, going a little bit in Spurs' favor, can be useful.
So here's the question I have, though, is do the Spurs take on Gordon Hayward without taking back Jaylen Brown as well? And the Spurs definitely do now, but do the Celtics want to give up that much? Because that's a lot for the Celtics to give up.
I think including Gordon Hayward and Jaylen Brown would be too much.
And exactly.
I don't think the Boston would do that, especially since there's no guarantee that Kawhi stays in Boston. Now, I think Boston can make a very compelling case to Kawhi. I think if Boston gets Kawhi, especially with LeBron leaving, I think Boston's a shoo-in for the finals. I think they can, their switchability, they could even put up a good fight against the Golden State Warriors. If with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kawhi Leonard all being able to switch, Horford being able to do his thing, and Kyrie being able to manage the offense, I think that's a pretty good team, especially with Marcus Smart coming off the bench. There's a lot of salary issues that's going to come up later with that. But for now, I think that's a team that can win.
Yeah, and I think the salary issues, I think if a team's winning, we've all seen that teams are willing to spend money if their team is winning. Golden State is coming up on that, and they're going to have to do it. But now the problem there is that now, like we just said, the Spurs would definitely take on Gordon Hayward and Jaylen Brown, but I don't think the Celtics would be, like you said, willing to give up Jaylen Brown and Gordon Hayward. And especially because, like you just said, Kyrie Irving, not only is Kawhi Leonard on the last year of his contract, but so is Kyrie Irving. And I agree completely that yes, that the